Title: The passenger who changed everything. She was a quiet, composed teenager sitting in first class, her ticket fully paid, her presence unassuming. Her name was Jayla Monroe, 17 years old, black, and traveling alone for the first time. She wore her headphones, not playing music, just noise cancellation, a barrier between her and the world. The boarding process was nearly complete when a flight attendant paused in the aisle, her gaze fixed on Jayla as if something were amiss. Within minutes, Jayla was being escorted off the plane, her dignity publicly stripped in front of a cabin full of strangers. What no one realized at the time was that this simple act of profiling would unravel something far bigger than anyone on that flight could imagine. The airport buzzed with the usual cacophony: boarding calls, wheels clattering against tile, the low hiss of espresso machines. But near gate A24, things were still. Passengers for flight VXA 3826 to New York were lined up in an orderly fashion, glancing occasionally at their phones. Jayla stood in the priority boarding line, passport and ticket in hand. Her jeans were pressed, her sneakers spotless. This flight wasn't just a trip. It was a celebration of her acceptance into a prestigious engineering mentorship in New York. Her grandmother, Lorraine Monroe, had surprised her with a first-class ticket. "You deserve to fly like the future you're building," she had said. Jayla entered the cabin and took her seat at 2A, smiling quietly to herself as she sank into the plush leather. She closed her eyes. Just the hum of the cabin and her own thoughts. The serenity didn't last long. Kelly Rogers, a mid-40s flight attendant with sharp eyes and even sharper instincts, began her sweep of the cabin. Her uniform was crisp, her demeanor unreadable. Her eyes passed over passengers without pause, until she spotted Jayla. Something about the girl made Kelly pause. There wasn't anything specific, just a quiet sense of out of place. She approached, gave 2 abrupt taps on Jayla's armrest. Jayla, startled, pulled down one side of her headphones. "I need you to lower the volume on those," Kelly said coolly. "There's no sound playing," Jayla replied, her voice even. "It's just noise cancellation." Kelly hesitated, then said, "We ask passengers to remove wireless devices for takeoff." Jayla nodded and complied without a word. She folded the headphones in her lap. Kelly gave a slight nod and moved on, but her eyes lingered too long. Across the aisle, a man in a gray blazer noted the interaction but said nothing. Boarding continued. The cabin filled. Kelly moved briskly, assisting here and there, but her gaze repeatedly returned to Jayla. Her calmness, her silence, it unsettled her. She approached again. "I need to verify your ticket." Jayla handed it over. "Seat 2A, name matched, ticket valid." "You seemed out of place earlier," Kelly muttered as she returned it. Jayla took the ticket back with steady hands. The flight took off without issue. Jayla opened her journal and began to write. Not much, just a few lines that felt heavy. In the galley, Kelly whispered to a younger attendant named Dana. "That girl in 2A, something feels off." Dana hesitated. "You mean the teenager?" Kelly didn't answer. She didn't have to. Back in her seat, Jayla could feel the attention. She noticed the inconsistency. The white teenager in row 4 with identical headphones, untouched. The businessman speaking softly into a wireless earpiece. No one questioned them. Kelly returned, holding a laminated policy card. "Wireless devices must be turned off," she said. "Is this enforced for everyone?" Jayla asked calmly. No response. Kelly extended her hand. Jayla surrendered the headphones. Her jaw was set, her back straight. The humiliation simmered just beneath her skin. Dana passed again and paused at Jayla's row. She leaned in slightly. "I'm sorry. I've seen her do this before." Jayla offered no reply. She understood. This wasn't about rules or noise or safety. It was about power, and who was allowed to exist comfortably in it. Later, as meal service began, the lead flight officer, a tall man named Richard Monroe, no relation, walked down the aisle. He stopped at Jayla's seat. "Miss Monroe, I've been informed of an issue with compliance. We need you to acknowledge crew instructions and confirm understanding of safety procedures." Jayla looked up. I complied. I handed over my headphones when asked. What more is required? Richard faltered. The crew perceived your behavior as resistant. Jayla didn't respond immediately. Then a voice rang out from behind her. That's not true. It was Lorraine, rising from seat 3C. She stepped forward, eyes blazing. I've watched everything since we boarded. My granddaughter has been polite, silent, and compliant. What exactly are you accusing her of? Richard opened his mouth, but Kelly whispered something to him. He straightened. We'll need both of you to deplane. Jayla didn't cry. She simply stood when her grandmother placed a steady hand on her shoulder. They gathered their things and walked down the aisle. The man in the gray blazer watched, but didn't move. A woman clutched her wine glass tighter, then looked away. The silence of the cabin was thick, apathy masked as protocol. Outside the gate, two uniformed airline security officers waited. They took down names, rebooked tickets, and issued canned apologies. Lorraine handled everything with quiet authority. Jayla said nothing. Back in the terminal, Lorraine took out a phone, sleek, black, not her personal one. She made one call. Cancel everything. The man on the other end responded simply, understood. When flight VXA 3826 landed in New York, a corporate statement had already been released. A misunderstanding. Passenger deboarding due to noncompliance. No names. No context. But something had already shifted. Within hours, a travel rights blogger dissected the incident. A former airline employee anonymously shared that Kelly Rogers had been named in multiple discrimination complaints. All dismissed. Hashtag surged. Hashtag flying while black. Hashtag Jayla Monroe. Hashtag who is Lorraine. Reporters dug deeper. Lorraine Monroe wasn't just a grandmother. She was the founder and CEO of Monroe Capital, a private aerospace investor firm managing over $4 billion in assets. The airline had been negotiating with Monroe Capital on a $2.1 billion fleet upgrade. Negotiations now suspended indefinitely. Inside airline headquarters, panic erupted. Executives scrambled to control the narrative. Meetings were called. Apologies drafted. But the damage was already viral. Leaked documents revealed the airline's use of NPP, non-priority passenger, tags. Jayla had been flagged. The designation wasn't race-based on paper, but in practice? Unmistakable. Public outrage exploded. Former employees spoke out. Internal chat logs leaked, revealing derogatory comments about certain types of passengers. The entire industry was shaken, and Jayla? She remained silent. But she worked at in her room. She began coding. A tool for tracking discrimination in real time. Flight data, staff interactions, passenger logs, all processed through machine learning to flag bias. When it launched, it was hailed as revolutionary. Meanwhile, Lorraine made quiet calls. Contracts were withdrawn. Competitors were courted. Ethical aviation startups rose overnight, fueled by capital Lorraine diverted from the airline. Kelly Rogers was placed on leave, then terminated. The airline CEO resigned. Board members stepped down. A cultural audit began. An independent oversight committee was formed, led by civil rights experts and aviation watchdogs. Jayla was offered countless interviews. She declined them all, but one morning, she posted a video. Just her, seated plainly in front of a bookshelf. She described what happened, not as rage, but with clarity. She spoke of the coded language, the dismissive eyes, the small humiliations that stacked into oppression. I don't want revenge, she said. I want systems to evolve. The video went viral in every major language. Months later, Jayla visited a training center for under-resourced aviation students. It was quiet, modest, lined with worn simulators. Among the instructors was a woman in her 50s, no name tag, adjusting headsets. Kelly Rogers, Jayla entered quietly. They made eye contact. No drama. No speeches. Jayla handed her a folder, a grant for student mentorship. It's not forgiveness, she said. It's a beginning. Kelly's hands trembled. She didn't ask for redemption. She only nodded. Jayla left, and the classroom returned to life. But something had shifted again. Not just in policy or headlines. but in the hearts of those watching, and the world kept flying. But now, some part of it had learned to see better.